I'd like to call City Council meeting to order. Welcome, thank you for being here. We can all please join together in our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Carter? Here. Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Hepburn?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez?
Here.
And Mayor Kendrick?
Here. We have received a letter that I think is worth reading. We just received it, and I would like to read it. It's 3 paragraphs. We've received a letter that I think is valuable for our residents to hear. This was received, it's from Chip and Pam Hazen on Hormel Circle, just south of Foothill off Damien. It is with pleasure to write this letter of commendation for the actions of 6 of the City of Laverne's finest employees this past October. The problem started when tree roots pushed the sidewalk and driveway up in front of our home. In mid-August of this year, a friend of ours was walking toward a vehicle when she tripped over one of the raised areas. The fall caused several contusions and a concussion when her head hit the sidewalk. The next day, the City of Laverne received my phone call informing them of the hazard situation. Anthony Ciotti, who is the Deputy Director of Public Works, returned the call that afternoon and inspected the area 30 minutes later. That week, Mr. Ciotti and Clay, what's Clay's last name? Big Clay, who's the maintenance manager, inspected the raised sidewalk and the driveway. Again, they said they would have this corrected within a few weeks. We agreed that the tree, which possibly caused the problem, needed to be removed. The tree removal was accomplished a few weeks later by a contractor. A few weeks after the tree was removed, the City of Laverne maintenance personnel, Dustin, Grant, Rigo, and Brad, started working on the sidewalk and driveway. These 4 individuals are extremely thorough and professional from the moment they arrived on our property to when they swept the area for the last time. They were always kind and courteous toward my wife and me, waiting while we moved our vehicles out of the driveway and providing answers. In my 50-plus years of working, 22 years in public agencies, I have never seen a team work so smoothly and quickly together. They simply arrived and fixed the problem. Their efforts seemed to be a normal occurrence for these workers, but their attitude is what made the difference. All 4 workers, the maintenance manager and the city and the deputy director's attitude to fix this problem were outstanding. Thank you for these wonderful public servants and in correcting this tripping hazard. And so I would like to thank them, but I would like to also add on to that our job in this city, and it's not the city council, but starts with the city manager on down, is to hire employees with great attitudes and caring about people. And that's evident in this letter. So congratulations on our Public Works Department, Anthony, and everybody else for an amazing job well done. Great way to start the holiday. We have 2 presentations on this evening, and we're going to start with the largest, and that is a presentation of our latest CERT team basic training certificate. So, Jennifer? Yeah. Do you want the mic or do you want me to? I knew that was coming. Okay, so we have, so far in Laverne, just to give you an idea of this program, CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team, and there's right now, over 150 CERT members in our community. And we're gonna recognize 20 more tonight that is gonna make our city that much better not if we have a disaster, but when we have a disaster. So we're gonna give them certificates tonight, and I'm gonna call their names, and if you'll come, and if you'll just line right up across the front so everybody can see you, please. Louise Allison. The coordinators of this program are Jim and Jennifer up front, and they do a great job in teaching and guiding this program. Pam Berry. Pam? Thanks, Pam. Kenny Chang. Mel Gagne.
Second year.
Sally Husky. Raylene Saucedo. Obelia Philiflor. Donna Ashmore. Larry Carlson. Tracy Chung. Pamela Gear. Melissa Mott. Somebody that's lived in Laverne all her life, Betty Snedeker. And should we sing happy birthday you today, Betty? Because it's her birthday.
Birthday girl.
Yeah. Dolores Yark. Cheryl Bailey. Not here, okay. Maria Carlson. Maria is an RSVP, so she's gonna get double duty here. Carol Dover. Lee Wang. Lee, there she is. This lady is an amazing activist in Laverne, so we're thrilled to have you as with your green vest on. Jim Ramirez. I see Jim at the Boy Scout troop, so he is, talk about double duty. Monday night is Boy Scout night, Troop 411 at the barn down here. And last is Cliff Villaflor. His wife was not here, so maybe he's not here either. So I'm gonna ask Jim and Jennifer to talk for a few minutes and just let us know how important this is.
How important this is? This is a really important program helping you prepare for a potential disaster that might occur in the city or anywhere you might happen to be if a disaster occurs. You never know where you're liable to be if something like that happens. You could have been up in Trona, for instance, when the earthquake hit. And you have some training that will help you help yourself and your neighbors. And that's what we do. We teach you how to be prepared for any kind of a disaster. So there's some first aid training, there's some search and rescue training, there's some firefighting, things to watch out for, and how to be prepared in your own home, and to help your neighbor and yourself. I'll let Jen tell you more.
Well, Jim covered it very well. I'll add a few other things. If a widespread disaster occurs tonight, we have a wonderful fire department, and I can vouch for them. They're very dedicated and very committed to service. But if a widespread disaster occurs tonight, the fire department and the police department are not going to come to your door. That's the harsh reality. Because with only a dozen on duty at any one time, and in any city, that number is relatively small. It doesn't matter what the city is, they're not going to be coming to your door. They're going to be tending to the larger incidents and doing what's called doing the greatest good for the greatest number, putting out the major fires or attending to larger structures where large groups of people are. So it's imperative that each of us needs to prepare and know how to take care of ourselves and how to safely respond in the community and how to safely help others so that we don't become part of the problem, because it's very easy for people to want to hurry and rush and go into danger and become injured, and now they can't help anybody, and now there's another victim. And so the purpose of CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, the T really could stand for training, because it trains us in the skills that we need to do those things safely. And joining the team is optional. But we are integrated in the fire department, we're supported by the fire department, and those of us on the team who join the team would augment and support the firefighters in a real disaster. Battalion Chief Kevin Greenway is overseeing our program, and he and Captain Dominic are also on our training committee. So we're moving along, and we've trained about 160 now, and we have a very strong growing program. And it takes a village. It's not just Jim and me, we're the most visible, but it takes a lot of people to run a program, and John Rodarte here is another one of them. So I want to thank the city for their support, the fire department for their support. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
If I could ask Kevin Greenway, who is ahead of this, to please stand up, and also Chief Summers, if you can please, the two people that are kind of leading this. Thank you very much. And when Jennifer says it takes a village, when you have a village full of people like this, it's pretty spectacular. So congratulations on finishing, but thank you from Laverne and from the bottom of all of our hearts for what you're doing to make this city the best it can be. Thank you so much.
If anyone is interested in learning more about our activities and what we do and whatnot, we have some brochures up here that have can answer some of your questions if you get.
The other presentation tonight, the badge pinning, unfortunately is not going to happen. And Andy Glaze, who's been promoted to captain, and we were hoping to have him here tonight, is sick, and so he is not going to be here. We're going to reschedule it at the soonest available time to get Andy in here to get his captain badge put on. But there is a presentation that is not on your agenda that I'm going to ask two special people that is very involved in our community. Our commander of the VFW Post 12034, Daniel Lopez, along with Joe Martinez.
Thank you very much. The VFW has a essay competition. Actually, we have two. We have one for the junior high school and one for the high school. We do this every year, and it's a theme that we have is a patriotic theme. This year we have a first place winner for our post, And I'd like to have her come up, Carly Granda. Along with that goes a checkbook with $100. Winner for our post here in Laverne, 12034. Congratulations.
The other thing that she doesn't know is that in the district, for District 11, out of 12 posts, she came in 3rd place. It also qualifies her to compete in the state for the other VFW post. So congratulations.
I want to talk to you just for a second about this family because they are special. I don't know if anybody, in fact, I know a lot of people here go to the 4th of July fireworks show. And Carly's brother, Jordan, sang the national anthem a couple years ago and just did an amazing job. So this is a really, really talented family of people that reach out and do good things in our community. And I would like to commend their parents for the wonderful job of parenting they're doing in creating the best that you can and allowing us to be part of their lives. So thank you, Carly. Thank you, Jordan. Okay, we'll move to item 5, and that is the announcements. So anybody, I know we have Card Sherry Best, our president of the Historical Society there. You are Sherry, if you can come forward and you're going to brag about Saturday.
Well, a little bit. Sure. Well, on behalf of the Laverne Historical Society, I want to thank all the participants who came out Saturday between 3 and 5 and mingled on 3rd and G Streets and participated in fellowship and good community conversation. It was a wonderful time. And then we had the high school band come out and play for us. And if you're looking for entertainment, I highly recommend the high school band and then also their concert choir. I got a chance to catch them in a performance on Thursday at a luncheon. So here's a wonderful opportunity to enjoy our youth. And I also wanted to add that because we're sharing the love a little bit here, on the table we have baked cookies, all kind of chocolate dipped pretzels, and all other goodies from our bake sale table. So don't leave and go home without picking something out of the box. On us. Thank you so much. Have a nice Christmas.
Thank you, Sherry. There were lots of goodies on Saturday, so. Okay, we are going to move to consent, but before that, I would like to open an invitation to everybody here for candy packing for Christmas morning, which is on Monday the 23rd at 6 o'clock in the community center, and also for Christmas morning starting at 7 o'clock. I'd recommend you get here at 6:30. I will be leaving right out of the parking lot behind me for Christmas morning, where we take out approximately 11,000 bags to our kids in the community. So.
We would ask anybody that's interested to go on our website and sign up. We are taking volunteer opportunities there.
Great, okay. So, cityoflaverne.org. Thank you very much. Okay, moving to the consent calendar. We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Vote, please.
If they switch locations, just keep the center.
Before we move on, there was an approval for a property on Bonita at 2417 that belongs to Jeremy and Michelle Conrad, that they are here. You bring the kids?
Oh, no.
Have to do that. I have been through and around this house. I will tell you that if you own an old house and it's been painted many times, it becomes in need of removal of all that paint. And I think Jeremy is doing all that. I hope Michelle is not doing that. But it is going to be spectacular when they get done, and it looks great from the front. So thank you for taking an old house. We did one on the last meeting for Oscar Marshall. This was his son's house. He didn't buy it new, but he bought it and lived there until the early 2000s. And then I think it was early 2000s. Nobody really lived in that house until Jeremy and Michelle bought it. So there's not too many owners in this house. So thank you very much for everything you're doing, and congratulations on figuring those out. So good job. We will move to item 7 under other matters, an urgency ordinance for county building codes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will take the first part of this item. Any questions, we will defer to the city engineer. We are asking for you to approve an urgency ordinance tonight for the various county code sections as well as state codes. And the reason that this is being requested at this short of a time frame is because the county didn't adopt their amended codes for establishment of 2020 until late November. So it didn't allow us the time frame that we needed to do the proper noticing of this. If we do not adopt these codes prior to the end of the year, actually it's required by state law, so it is necessary that we put these in place under urgency ordinance. Essentially, what we're asking you to do is adopt the county's building code, electrical code, plumbing code, mechanical code, and residential code, and then the green building code for the state, and then the state's fire code. We will be coming back to you with, the county has not adopted their new standards of the fire code, but they expect that it'll come time this next spring, in which case we will bring that back to you at that time for adoption of this code. So with that, I just open up any questions, or just ask you to consider it.
Any questions? Okay, is there any comments or any thoughts from the audience that you would like to have on this item? Okay, we'll bring it back. Tim?
Just a few comments real quick. It's just very important to have standards, and we need to stay up with. Lake County has always done a very good job for building standards, whether it be plumbing, mechanical. As a contractor, I use it all the time. It's very important to have strict standards in order to keep safety in our community and make sure the buildings are safe. And I think this needs to be done. We need to do it quickly.
I'm going to concur with Councilmember Hepburn and just add that while folks may be wondering why we aren't having a first and second reading, these codes weren't passed until late November, and so we really don't have time to do it, which is why it's under an urgency order. So I'm in favor of supporting this ordinance.
I think it's been well covered by both Councilor Hepburn and your neighbors.
Same with you, Chief.
Periodically, every 8 to 10 years, we get these through both the planning commission and the city council. Upgraded ordinances to make our community safer, and that's what building codes are just safety codes. And so, as Councilmember Hepburn knows, he's in the construction business. Constantly being updated and changes made that are better and better and better. So this is within that vein, and I would like to hear a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ordinance number 1088, an urgency ordinance of the city of Laverne adopting by reference pursuant to Government Code 50022.2, the title 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, Title 24 by Part 11, and Title 24 by Part 9.
Thank you for reading that.
Okay, we'll go to item B, that's the emergency ordinance for ADUs and junior accessory dwelling units. Bob?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we were going to ask you to consider an emergency ordinance for accessory dwelling units. That was a result of new state law that had come into effect, that we have to have something in place by the end of this calendar year. However, we have received a letter from a attorney group, several other cities have received it, I have a copy of it in front of your dais, that is questioning some of the provisions that exist here. We are asking, staff is asking for some time, along with the legal counsel, to look into what some of these, the merits of some of these. We've also submitted the ordinance to the state. We're hopeful that we can get a response back on if all the provisions or which ones would be accepted based on the new law. In which case, we'd like to plan a special meeting, and I will come up with dates that will work for council, and then agendize that before the end of the year and have consideration of that.
Okay, do you need anything at this time from?
No.
Okay. Okay, we'll move to item C. This is a request by Councilmember Rosales for a consideration on rentals.
I've had mentioned from a number of residents about suspicious activity on Esperanza and several other dwellings in the city. And with the police department's investigation, we determined they were Airbnb and they're becoming an issue. So I've asked city manager to look into it and to provide some information from our staff on how we can go about looking into this and making an appropriate response to it.
And if I may, the reason that we asked advances to an agenda, if we are to explore what some other cities have done in the way of adopting some restrictions related to short-term rentals, it would require a code change, and going through an ordinance change, that's a significant effort. And certainly before we did that, we wanted to understand if there was an interest by the council to move forward with that. I shared over the course of the last month or so some correspondence on different locations that have expressed some concerns. I did share a letter today of an individual who thought short-term rentals were a good thing. So, you know, there are two sides to the equation here, but nonetheless, it's a matter of, does council wish for staff to research what options for either restrictions or limits or whatever we should be putting in place. So I know that there were several speaker cards that have also been provided on this subject. So we're just open to, if there are any questions to council or get direction from them.
Any questions? Okay, we're gonna open it up for the public, and I have a number of speaker cards. If you wish to speak, you don't have to fill a blue card out before, but we would ask that you do so before you leave tonight and give it to our city clerk, so they're up at the podium, or our city clerk has them. So the first one I have is Judith Mercias.
I believe there's a 3-minute time limit.
No.
Oh, wow.
Hello, everybody.
I will try to make this
If
brief.
you stop speaking when this room is empty,
She said we get
you won't make hands, you
Got
won't
it.
make friends.
Keep our attention, please.
But we do ask that, that if, once you come up here, please say what you're going to. Those that follow, if you're gonna repeat the same thing, just, if you, we understand the emotions, keep it brief. And if you can just speak once, we'll get through everybody tonight, so. Judith, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable council members. My name is Judith Macias. I'm a proud Lavernian here and have been raising my children here for the past 22 years. My concern today is the situation with the Airbnb. I, with along of a few of our neighbors that live on Esperanza Drive, have had the opportunity to have an Airbnb very, very close to us. As you mentioned, Mr. Russi, that, we want to give everybody a fair opportunity, especially with business. But that situation has unfortunately caused some unsavory situations in our neighborhood, where we are actually very concerned about our safety, not only for the safety of our children, for the safety of our neighbors, but in all honesty, even safety for our Laverne Police Department, who have already gone a few times to that home and may not even know what to encounter. So if we have that situation going on with our police department, what's to be expected of neighbors with children, and that situation is just very difficult to now have to deal with. So if you can definitely please take into consideration ordinance or boundaries. I have had the privilege of being in an Airbnb and been respectful to the neighbors so that I could be invited back. But the situation on Esperanza, my understanding is that they're renting rooms individually and not so much as an opportunity to come in and spend a few evenings there. So if you can please take this into consideration. I'm glad to hear that you're already trying to be proactive with this. We've had that Airbnb, I think, for over a year now, and our concerns are definitely becoming a little bit more urgent with the situations that are occurring there. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Judith. Ryan Racine.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Racine and I live on Old Ranch Road. We have a neighboring night-by-night rental that no family should be forced to live next to. We were never informed of what was transpiring next to us that has essentially amounted to a cheap night-by-night motel. In the past 2 years alone, based on Airbnb records, this neighboring property has seen 447 rooms rented at an average of $60 per night. This has created many negative effects to my family on a daily basis. At any particular time of the day or night, we will have complete strangers loitering in front of our property with suitcases in hand. One instance on a Sunday afternoon, I had 2 unscrupulous males waltz all the way into my garage, asking what was the fastest way to get them to Los Angeles. This was alarming as I was in the house, then completely off guard, walking into my garage to find these 2 men and unsure if they meant harm. Another day, 2 men were standing on our property under our front yard tree, 3 feet away from our dining room window. My wife asked them to move and they responded that this was the only shade to stand in while they were waiting for their Uber, again, on my property. We have photos of cars pulling into our driveway to pick up patrons and videos of cars creeping by to figure out how to get into the property. This is a direct product of the night-by-night rental. Last January, the housekeeper for the property showed up at our doorstep sharing with us that she had to call the police on a woman that was using a stolen credit card that had now begun squatting and was starting to manufacture something in the living room. These are a few of the many stories that I can tell you about things I have witnessed or been exposed to because of what I live next to. If you were to go into the website Airbnb and find the property, you too would find reviews of people that have often stated that they cannot get into the property, the person in the room next to them was loud at 4 a.m., and the host didn't respond to help, or that they were locked out of the property, loitering in the street in front of the other homes. I often travel out of state for work functions, and because of the volume of strangers that come and go from this property with no knowledge of their past, I am not comfortable leaving my wife and 3 children under 8 years of age by themselves. A home should be a safe haven from the world, and this is not acceptable. I guarantee none of the people on this board would accept such a situation. The night-by-night rental we directly deal with, along with the second night-to-night rental on Esperanza that has had much criminal activity, is harmful and unsafe for all neighbors. There's too much risk involved with continuing to allow a night-to-night rental policy in the city of Laverne to continue. Properties are taking advantage of this policy by creating a small-scale motel environment, which is not the intent of the policy. A reasonable deduction would conclude that the policy must be amended before something tragic happens, as we have recently seen in Northern California. We are advocating for Laverne to a policy change that only allows long-term rentals of greater than 30 days. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ryan. Tom Reck.
Hello. My name's Tom Reck, and I live at 4833 Esperanza Drive, right directly next door to 4851 Airbnb. My wife and I have lived in Laverne for 30 years. I have a daughter who graduated from Benina High School. We love the area. We've lived in 3 separate houses here. We moved to Esperanza about 17 years ago. Had a neighbor next door, Mario, older guy, Italian guy, great neighbor, kept his house really pristine. Golden, who the new owner introduced himself as his name is Golden. I don't think that's his real name. He's certainly not Golden. It didn't take very long. This about 2 years ago, I think they moved in. And it didn't take very long for the house to look a little bit unkept, the outside yard. And then it didn't take too long again for all of a sudden parties started happening. We realized that it would turn into an Airbnb. And I think in the beginning it was more larger groups of people. I know older fellows that were there for the car show at down at the fairgrounds. But then it started getting just smaller groups of people or single people moving in there. We looked at the ad, and there are 4 separate rooms that are rented nightly. Loud parties started to happen, and then lots of traffic. Outside our yard was littered with trash, cars parked up and down the street. People were knocking on our door, thinking that our house was the actual Airbnb. And then what really got to me was the police. Twice they came home from work. I'm a teacher. Came home from work, and there were probably 5, 6 marked cop cars there. 1 undercover cop car. And they were searching a car, which eventually I believe was stolen and was removed, and somebody was arrested for that. Second time, same thing. There were kids out on the sidewalk that were being searched. And then the one that really got to me was about 5 o'clock in the morning. And my doorbell was ringing. And so I got up, and there were about 5 police officers in my front yard. And there was a girl, apparently my neighbor witnessed a girl walking through our yard and then disappeared up the back and toward the house in question. They asked permission to search the backyard, so there was 5 cops, 5 o'clock in the morning with their guns drawn, searching my backyard. Terrified my wife and myself. Try to make this work. Safety is my main concern in my house and protection for my house, and we're definitely not really happy with this. There's a letter that you guys will all get from my next door neighbor on the other side. His name's Houston Clemens. He's a police officer for West Covina, and he witnessed what he thought, and it's in the letter, and a direct quote from him. He saw a female outside holding a rose, and he believed that there was a car down the street in the Yucca is like a little parking, or like a dead-end street, and a lot of people parked there. And he, quote, "The females were also a bit disheveled, and I quickly realized that they were prostitutes, and the male was there for protection." That's scary stuff right there. And again, that's Houston, and you'll get a copy of that letter that he wrote. And I looked at the distance, and that's less than a mile from elementary school. So I just want you guys to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Lynn Reck.
Good
Good evening, and thank you for letting me come in and speak to you tonight. I am the wife of Mr. Reck and live next door to this short-term rental on Esperanza. I have some more information about some of the things that have been going on. I'd like to bring your attention to it's a dangerous situation for us, and it could develop into somebody getting hurt. They've been there for about 2.5 years. There's been loud parties, fighting. My bedroom is about 20 feet from their property line. And they look down into my yard and into my window if it were open. So I've heard women screaming, sounds of altercations, all sorts of different music in the middle of the night. When the house first began to become a rental, they were renting it to foreigners a lot. And so I believe they would come in at weird times of the night because the time changed. But there would be weird noises coming at 4 in the morning and all sorts of people coming and going. But that has kind of shifted now because it seems like they're renting the rooms one at a time. And I've investigated, and I have found, and the Airbnb is currently listed there, that Golden is now listing it using other people's addresses. For instance, he's used my own address. And I've had people come to my door and say, I'm here for the Airbnb. And I said, oh no, you're at the wrong house. And they showed me the paper that had my own address on it. And then I began getting mail from Airbnb like I was the owner, which I'm not. And our addresses they're not even similar. So I looked on Airbnb last night, and he does not have his home listed where it's actually located. He must be using other people's addresses because it's listed nearby. Like there's one of his bedrooms is listed on Yucca, and I know that's the wrong house. Oops, I'll put that.
Just leave it there, it's fine.
So he's kind of being deceptive as well, making the Airbnbs look like on the map that they're actually, one of them looks like your house, Judy. And I know that's not true, but when I looked at the actual pictures of the rooms he's listing, I could tell it's his house because I've been in the home, and there's also a gazebo that you can see in the kitchen. So if you guys go online and you look for Airbnbs, there's a gazebo right outside the kitchen that you can tell it's the same property. And so he's got 3 other rooms listed nearby using false addresses. I've also been woken up more than once, but once in particular, where I actually had people come into my, through the gate and into my backyard property. I mean, actually like 2 people, and just scared me to death, woken up in the middle of the night from a dead sleep. And I look at, I see people in my backyard. Luckily, I noticed soon that they had suitcases with them. So I wasn't, I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing in here? And they quickly said, oh, I'm sorry, and everything. But I didn't get back to sleep that night at all. And that's happened more than once that I found people in my backyard. So I've had to call the police many times and get help, and they've always been very helpful. The police have been great. We're pretty sure that there's been at least several different incidences where there is possible prostitution going on there, or drug sales. We know that one of my neighbors informed me that the police have even done a stakeout, an undercover stakeout, across the street at my neighbor's house, watching this home. So we know that there's plenty of illicit behavior going on, but we're not fully aware of each and all of the incidents. The police could probably tell you more if you inquired. So we've also found out that somebody's been living in the garage. So that's a safety concern as well. There's fire concerns because the owner is not taking care of the property, and at one time cut down a tree and he left all of the branches just piled in a heap for several months. They've since have been cleared out. Maybe the city came by, I'm not sure, and noticed. Anyway, I'm very concerned about the safety of my family and additionally about my property value. You know, I know Mayor Kendrick's here in real estate. If I were to try and sell my home and I had to disclose to the new buyers, what percentage would that take off of my sales price? You know, I'm sure it wouldn't be a good situation. So I'd like to request that the city make an ordinance against this of some kind. This kind of short-term room rentals. Because when they're renting rooms for as low as $40 a night, we don't know what we're getting in there. And this is just unacceptable. And I appreciate you listening, and if there's anything you can do to help us, thank you very much in advance.
Thank you, Lynn. Eliata Moreno. Thank you, Lynn.
Hello, my name's Elieta Moreno, and I live on Old Ranch Road, right next door to Airbnb. And what I originally wrote is going to be a lot shorter because I don't want to be repeating the same similar stories. But I'm here mostly to say that what the Racine family is experiencing is not an isolated incident, as I've heard it called sometimes. I've lived in my location for over 30 years. And 20 years ago, I stood here in front of many of you that I recognize. I don't know if you recognize me. I know I look different in 20 years.
And we weren't here 30 years ago.
Well, 20 years ago, some of you were. And we had similar problems. A little different, but similar. And I just want to let you know that I'm sorry, I lost where I am. As a parent, the constant traffic that the Racines are having was our concern. At the time, we had diesel trucks coming and going, bringing guests to and fro from Oak Mesa School, and that isn't exactly their problem. It's more so the Airbnb, and I've witnessed it. I'm on the opposite side. We've had situations where I've had beer cans thrown at me over the wall because I've asked drunk men to stop urinating on the wall that we share. So in anger, they throw their drinks over. I've had, when my son was younger, he would be out in the front playing ball with, 4 or 5 other people. And we had somebody that was there, guests, come over, and I was inside, and he forcibly took the basketball away. Obviously, he was drunk, and he kicked one of the boys. Later, the police came, I'd say several weeks later, and they arrested him and found all kinds of skateboards, bicycles, children type of things in the residence. And I mean, I could go on and on, 20 years worth of problems. But I don't want to, and I just want to let you know that this is the city of Laverne. You know, it's a wonderful city. That's why we're all here and we're all concerned. And this isn't so hard. When a store opens in the city of Laverne, they have rules, they have regulations that they have to abide by, and they're given a license. When they break the rules, that license is taken away. It doesn't affect all the other stores. All the other stores don't get shut down. So we're not after all the Airbnbs, just those that are breaking the law, that are not abiding by the rules. So I really like you to consider that, so that the Racine family doesn't have to endure 20 years like I did, watching my kids, having to watch them in the backyard because men were trying to talk to my children over the walls. So please, thank you, and please do something.
Thank you. Steve Gonzalez.
Good evening, I'm Steve Gonzalez. I also live on Old Ranch Road, and I'll try to keep it short because pretty much the same stuff. I go to work at 4:15 in the morning, and I see Uber, Lyft, coming through the street, I see people walking, just walking through the neighborhood. Aimless, like if they're looking for something. I've heard parties, and I've only lived here for about 1.5 years. I just moved to the city of Laverne because it's such a great city. And I hear all this going on. I see the police there. Trash left on the streets, beer cans, beer bottles. And I have 4 children, and I don't want them to see all this in my neighborhood. I came from another city that I didn't have this problem. We didn't have any of it. And to come into a new city and see this is, just a little much, but I really like my neighbors. It's just this Airbnb that's, causing the problems. That's it.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you.
John Gonzalez?
Hello, my name is Chan Gonzalez. I'm the wife of Steve Gonzalez. So we did wrote a letter to Mr. Rusi. So I'm just going to summarize. Mainly I'm here to support my neighbor and have a safe neighbor too. Okay. So we, like my husband said, we just moved here in 2018. This was a competitive neighborhood. And then, we thought it's a great city. We didn't know about the Airbnb until recently, because it would change where we live if we didn't know about the Airbnb, the short-term rental. We don't mind it's a long-term rental, but short-term rental is a different story. So it's for the safety of our kid. Schools next door, so the children are very important to me too. So that's pretty much it. I just want to here to support my neighbor and have a safe neighborhood for the whole time I'm living here, because 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Carmona.
Hello, my name is Joseph Carmona, and I'm one of the hosts of the Airbnb, and it hurts me to hear these stories here because I had no idea it was that bad here. I own and operate a property management company where we focus on corporate housing. Corporate housing has been around for a long, long time, especially with the University of Laverne, which means you furnish a property, somebody comes in because they're visiting the University of Laverne, the Fairplex, they rent the place for you for 5 days, 7 days, 30 days, working on their PhD from the University of Laverne, what have you, they rent your place. I got into business this year. I've been helping somebody do it for the past 3 years, and I ventured off and did it on my own. I believe what the gentleman said earlier, you gotta have standards. There's gotta be regulations, so I'm all for that. What we do with our Airbnb is I have 2 of them here in the city of Laverne. What we do is we put cameras all around the property. They're monitored 24/7 by a company called CPI Security, which is out of Pomona. We put loud detectors in each room, so if it gets too loud in a certain room, it detects what, it lets the security guard know, and they do a rollout to knock on the door. We have smoke detectors everywhere, of course. If anything is any type of foul play, we address it right away. We don't do 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It has to be 4-day minimum. We charge a premium, so we don't, get rid of the riffraff that might come around for just a $49 a night stay. We do background checks on all of our people that come through. We look at their Facebook accounts, their LinkedIn, whatever we can to try to dictate what pictures they're posting to try to get some kind of judgment on those characters that are coming through. I'm for regulation, I'm for standards. I would love to work with the council if you guys need more information on how this exactly works, I'm available. I'll show you exactly how the things come in, how we deal our things, and when you guys mock up your regulations, maybe we can come out with a deal. Because there probably has to be something needs to get done. And then as a host, sorry to those that are living next to these Airbnb homes. I wouldn't want my kids next to, that's kind of how I test how we do our business. I have 2 kids at home, they're 3 and 4, and would I want to live next to one? And that's how we manage our properties. So, yeah, please consider that when coming up, when writing up your regulations, that it's been a blessing for me and my family. You know, I've been working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes just to support my family. With this Airbnb thing, with VRBO, with corporate housing, I don't have to do that anymore. I can be home with the kids, we can, you know, take many vacations, and it's been a blessing for me. But yes, I'm willing to adjust to make everybody feel safe.
Okay, you need the contact information for the city clerk.
Yes, I guess it will.
Carol King.
Good evening. I've lived in Laverne for about 45 years. Robin and I go back a long ways. Every 10 or 20 years, I gotta come talk to you folks. Regarding this Airbnb, one of the things that really concerns, I think, everyone that has spoken to you, with the exception of the last gentleman, has to do with changing the character of the neighborhood. The particular property they're talking about is deep in the heart of a residential neighborhood in Laverne, North Laverne, where it's a bedroom community, and I'm real sure that these folks that have talked to you tonight don't want to have their residential neighborhood turned into a commercial neighborhood, which is what hotels typically do. I am reasonably concerned that these transient individuals that come into the neighborhood, some are good and some are bad. It's the 80-20. 80% of the people are good, 20% of the people are, you know. And so I'm concerned about some of the issues, such as the children being exposed to strangers in the neighborhood. I'm concerned about the unchecked growth. This is a huge industry that's growing around the country, and I don't know if you've checked into it or not, but it's a extremely high growth industry. Second of all, the noise that's created, as some of the folks here have expressed to you, the trash that's accumulated, the criminal activity, as it turns out, that's going on in some of these, and it just opens up. It's not that everything is criminal, it's just that it opens it up to that type of activity. And then also the safety of the people in the neighborhood. What we would like from you is for you to ensure that we have due diligence done on the people booking these places. We also would like to have the owner or the host to be at least reasonably in the neighborhood so that they're responsible and easy to contact when things do go awry. And we would also like to have you folks come up with some reasonable laws that prevent these short-term activities, with the exception of places that are in a reasonably commercial neighborhood, like Altamira, near the university. And we would also like to encourage you to look into other cities that have limitations and rules that have been well thought out. I own a piece of property in Huntington Beach also, and Huntington Beach strictly prevents and prohibits people having rentals that are less than 30 days. No short-term rentals. One by the day. I want to thank you guys, because you've got a difficult job to do, and appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Carol, thank you, and thank you for serving. Janet Morrison.
Thank you. Airbnbs are running a business in a residential area, and I think that zoning is supposed to protect residents from that, and I think that it should be, I don't think they should be allowed at all. One lady said not all Airbnbs. What was it she said? We're not after all Airbnbs. Yes, I am, after hearing her say that, because I don't want an Airbnb next to me. I'm 0.7 miles from an Airbnb. It has not affected me, but I don't want an Airbnb next to me. Now, I own rental property, and I own it in a place that is zoned for rental property. Let's keep rental properties where they're zoned. Let's keep motels where they're zoned. But if this is a residential area, we shouldn't have to deal with short-term rentals. And to think that I could buy a place, I bought my house in Laverne 6 years ago. I rented it out, 2 years to one tenant, 2 years to another tenant, and then I moved in. So I didn't break any zoning. It's okay to rent long-term in houses, but as soon as you get into short-term, I know I've been a property owner and a rental manager for 32 years. I know as soon as you get into short-term, low rent, you're gonna have more problems. You're going to have to call the police more often. I've dealt with that. So I would like to see it so that residential areas cannot be used for short-term rentals like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Kelly, receive.
My name is Kelly Racine. I live on Old Ranch Road. As you know, there is a night-by-night rental on Old Ranch Road that we live directly surrounded by. We first found out about this as we were playing in the front yard of our house with our 3 children. Cars were pulling up slowly with out-of-state license plates and exiting the vehicle and asking us for directions on how to enter the Airbnb. The intercom on the home was broken, and a lot of individuals have a hard time getting hold of the host. She's often out of the country, and even though there is someone there at the property, the reception is not always as it should work. In the last 2 years, the Airbnb has grown from 2 to 4 rooms, allowing up to 4 different parties to rent from it on the same exact night. During the summertime, we can sit in our front room and watch the cars pile out at checkout time. Each morning, a new set of cars and a new set of people. Imagine living next to this with 3 small children. In the last few years, the house has rented 447 rooms. This has been hell to live next to. My children cannot play in the front yards as cars slowly creep by looking for either the main gate or the side gate, which our property sits in between. Our children cannot play in the backyard by themselves, as we have no clue who or what is watching them. From the balcony of this individual's home, you can look right into our backyard. This wasn't so much an issue for us when the Airbnb was slowly picking up business, but since a tree has fallen, it has become our backyard has become a fishbowl. From my kitchen sink, I can literally wave to the individual that is on the balcony, a new person every few days. Our dog is constantly barking because of the strangers that frequent the house, and we've had multiple people knock on our door asking for help to be let into the property or to contact the owner because they cannot get in touch with her, only later to find out that the property was marketed on the Airbnb site as part of her property as an aerial view, which I'll also give you a copy of. We've had people sit in front of our house for Uber pickups, interrupt play dates with friends over, and we had an individual come to our front door and literally screamed at me from the other side of the door that indeed I had stolen this individual's package, that we had had a few packages sitting on our front porch, and a patron that was at this house came to the house and accused me of stealing his mail because he was then receiving mail for a few days at this house. This man was going off on me when we had 5 small children behind me witnessing all of this. These are the memories that we're making for our children. This is not the promise of Laverne. No one would want to live next to this. We are being woken up at all hours of the night, either by patrons being intoxicated, or the gate constantly opening and closing, or just enjoying their vacation in my suburb, when not watching their voice level because they paid to be on vacation. When you're on vacation, you expect a certain level of service and you expect to enjoy yourself. Why should anyone have to limit their noise level while on vacation? But when you live next to people, especially with small children, these people, they don't care. There's no respect for anyone around this property. All of this by being 14 houses away from an elementary school that my 2 boys attend. Blasting music, speeding cars, and wasting police resources on a problem the city can control. While in my front yard, I have been approached by people trying to drop off Uber Eats, as well as letting me know that my personal Uber is ready when I haven't even called one. Would you like to live next to this? Waking up my children with people standing in front of our home or by parking across the street, streaming their headlights into my home, all to get food delivered at almost midnight, waking up my toddler. If I wanted to live next to a motel, I would have purchased a home next to one. I wouldn't have purchased a home in Laverne. Who would buy a home next to this? Would you? Tim Hepburn, as well as Bob Russi, has received numerous emails, phone calls, and complaints about these short-term rentals that I will be handing these personal copies of. We've also turned in a 150-person petition for the closure of the Airbnb for our neighborhood on Old Ranch, as well as another petition in the Esperanza neighborhood that I spent probably 3 weeks going door to door, knocking on 178 doors of my own personal time taken away from my family and my husband, because I'm so tired of living next to it. Tim Hepburn and as well as Eric in the city planning office encouraged me to petition. These homeowners signed an understanding that they do not want an Airbnb or a short-term rental in their neighborhood. We are asking the city to not only put a short-term rental code into place, but to attach a monetary, substantial fine for a homeowner that is advertising this, and for a homeowner to not push the limits if something is passed. The house, as well as other short-term rentals within the city, only bring unwanted individuals in, overusing an already stretched thin police department. At the end of the day, please ask yourself, would you be happy if you knew that your grown son or your daughter or your grandchildren were living next to this? Would you sleep easy at night, knowing that people are coming in that are potentially felons, or who knows who's sleeping next to you at night? I think we all know what the answer would be. And I just want to relay onto what my husband said. My husband doesn't feel comfortable traveling on business trips. And personally for myself, it brings me a lot of anxiety when my husband leaves. I often feel like I need to call my father, who's retired law enforcement, because he's seeing the individuals that are coming and going from the house. At what point do we say to ourselves, is it no longer safe in Laverne to live? Right? At what point do we say to ourselves, why are we going to work every single day, and why do we save for a huge down payment to move into a nice neighborhood if we can't comfortably sleep with our window open, with a dog in the backyard? So I'm just asking you to please put yourself in my shoes and all of the people around here. We've all worked hard for our homes, and we've chosen to live in Laverne. My husband and I could have chosen to live in any of these bedroom communities. We chose Laverne for reasons.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address this issue?
Hi, my name is Kim Holder Herrera, and I've been a resident here for about 30 years. And I sent you all an email today describing my experience with Airbnb. I am a host, and I'm sorry to hear all the bad things that is happening here with Old Ranch Road and Esperanza. And it sounds to me like there are two Airbnbs that are a real problem here that I'm hearing about tonight. My Airbnb is a property that I've been trying this out for the past year, and I live also on the property that I use for the Airbnb. And I've had nothing but great experiences. I have rules that I set for my guests, and I make sure that they adhere to it. I screen them before they come. I have a minimum of days that they need to stay there, so it doesn't seem like it's a motel and in and out real quick. Some of the guests that I have, well, most of the guests that I have are parents visiting their children that go to college in the area. They go to ULV or the Claremont colleges. I have people that are here for business trips. They come to watch the NHRA events. I've had several that are teachers here visiting and teaching at the colleges here. I can tell you I have had no complaints from my neighbors, and that's probably helpful that I'm there sort of policing the whole thing. Another point that I'd like to bring up is that my Airbnb creates revenue for the city here. Of course, I pay my taxes, federal, state, and also the business license and all that. The city gets a portion of that, and that trickles down to us residents too, benefiting from that. I also pay parking fees for my guests in the amount of about $800 to $900 a year, and that goes to the city and trickles down to us residents. Another point that I was just thinking about, listening to everybody here, is long-term rentals can be a problem too. And I've done that, and I can't say that I've ever had the most positive experience after a resident leaves for 2 years or 3 years. They leave it a mess. And they always tell me, oh, we're gonna clean it up, we're gonna leave it just the way it was. And I expect, I expect the usual wear and tear. But sometimes it's just ridiculous. The carpet's destroyed. Things are just destroyed. So both can be good and both can be bad. And in my position here with the Airbnb that I've done for the last year, I just love it. And it's been really a godsend for my husband and I. Our kids are grown up. We raised them here. And I would hate for restrictions to be put on everybody, although I know I would follow them, but I would hate for that to disappear, because most of my people, my guests that come, they stay between 3 to 5 days, and as I said, it's been great. And I can tell anybody to leave at any time that it causes a problem. So perhaps one solution might be having the owner close by. And one other thing I should say is, the bad situations going here, have you talked to the owners of the property and have you filed complaints with them? That'll get you some action. You can find out who owns the property quite easily and pursue that. Anyway, thank you, and please consider my thoughts.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to? Yes, sir.
Thank you, folks. My name is Tom Boyle. I live on Yucca Circle, which is just south of the Airbnb on Esperanza. Not to belabor the point that you've heard, kind of drove into the meeting so far, but there is definitely a public safety issue with these Airbnbs. What I mean by that is I do see people loitering on the street, not to profile, but people that you would generally not assume would be in our neighborhood. I've seen what would appear to be prostitution, women being dropped off by a vehicle at 4:30 in the morning on the street, wearing clothes that do not appear to be appropriate for that hour of the morning, and walking up to the house. I've seen individuals coming out of the house and meeting on the street, exchanging handshakes in packages with cars on the street. The car was driving away. It's not an Uber Eats type situation. You're not walking away from McDonald's. It appears to be a drug transaction here. I've had my own personal vehicle broken into in my home. And all of these things I've seen in the last 2 years. It's definitely changed the profile of our neighborhood. People don't leave their garage doors up. People aren't out in front of their house beads. People have been installing security cameras around their homes, trying to keep an eye on what's going on. 350 yards south of the Airbnb house on Esperanza is the bus stop for the middle school. I have 2 children, don't let them take the bus there. Okay? I don't feel comfortable with them walking home with the type of enthusiasts we see walking up into the streets. Earlier in the meeting, you guys looked at an emergency ordinance to update building codes. And you talked about this public safety issue. And this is also a public safety issue. We're certainly asking, please take this very seriously. We've asked for you to look at the alternatives. Night on night rental, $40 is the going rate at the Esperanza house. I've looked at it, seen it, $40. There's a motel rate in the middle of a residential area. I've asked that that gets addressed. Appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Tom. Is there anybody else that would like to address this issue? Just a minute, Jeffers.
Hello, my name's Armando Moreno, and I've lived on Old Ranch Road for over 30 years. I'm proud Livernian. I raised all my children here. They all went to school here, and they're all very successful people. What we have next door used to be like an exclusive estate. It was originally probably the Orchard Mansion of the area, and now it's become a Motel 6 minus, because you can't rent a room anywhere for 40 or 60 bucks, but here you can. And if it was a normal home next door, a 3 or 4 bedroom home, and someone's living there and they want to rent out a room or 2, you probably wouldn't have the traffic. But when you have a mansion next door to you, and there's a house, there's a guest house, and they've cut it all up into little apartments or little suites where you can rent overnight, that just becomes a business. It's a little motel. The owner doesn't even live there. She waltzes by every once in a while. She has a property manager taking care of it, but it's just not conducive to the neighborhood. It's not zoned for that. If it was like it used to be, by a single owner, and they want to have an estate, it was very stately. They kept it up nice, but this place is shabby. She'll clean it up every once in a while when she throws a wedding in there or has some city event going on, like she did a couple weeks ago. She has a group of gardeners come in there and clean it all up for that event. But, the day-to-day operations there are clear to the people who live there. So we just need to have you guys look at it, and maybe it's just an isolated situation as far as that home and a couple others that need to be looked at, but it does need to get looked at. Thank you.
Thanks, Armando. Anybody else like to address sites and their Jeff?
Excuse me.
Jeff Bassler, Essex Avenue. I have a business that I run out of my house. I have a home occupation permit with the city. And part of the licensing of that permit is a restriction on the traffic coming to my house. There's no way any of these homes can be renting out room by room and comply with the traffic restrictions that I have to have. So right off the top, one of the restrictions should be absolutely no room by room rental on a short-term basis. And that will take a big swipe at it. A lot of people are buying homes and using them as hotels. They have no intention in residing in any of these. And under those circumstances, they are running a business in a residential neighborhood. These neighborhoods are intended to be residential, and that is what they need to be held to. So if they are going to be operating a property as a hotel, they're not complying with the intent of this neighborhood. So there should be a restriction on the amount of time per year. It could be a matter of weeks, maybe a month or two worth of days throughout the year, and that would make it no longer profitable to own these houses for purpose of year-round rental. And then you also put large fines on them for lack of compliance with neighborhood standards essentially, if they become problems. And then if you want to allow for some, like sounds like we've got a couple of good Airbnb type renters here, allow for a different standard for those that have special licensing through the city that are maintaining high standards that are not crowding our neighborhoods. They're not bringing in a rogue element. And also restrict parties at these places. And probably even want to put a thing that they need to notify prior to any Airbnb rentor arriving 24 hours in advance. Let our LBPD know. And failure to do that would result in eviction of their residents, which means they're not going to make the money off of them. So there are some little standards that you can put in place that can allow for some rentals so people can, it's nice vacation money if it's your own place and you're actually using it. Or you've got a couple good business owners, take care of those types of situations, but there are simple ways to put restrictions on these day-to-day problems.
Thank you, Jim.
Is there anybody else that would like to address this? Okay. Thank you very much for all your participation. Charlie?
Well, I heard about this problem about a month and a half ago at the gym. I had several people come up to me and say, I think there's a birthing clinic on Esperanza. Okay, I have a law enforcement background. When I heard birthing clinic, I thought, no, that's not a birthing clinic. I know what it is. So we had the police department look into it, and it came back an Airbnb. The people that I spoke to at the gym, they're not here tonight. The magnitude of this problem was unknown by anybody here until tonight. And I just want to thank the people that are here for coming in to express yourselves, to let us know that we have an issue that we need to address. And as the city manager indicated to you, I asked for this to be put on the agenda so that we could explore the first of all, the need for an ordinance. And I think it's obvious by the people that have spoken here tonight, we need to have regulations, we need to have an ordinance, we need to be able to bring regulation to what's going on here. In some cases, that we have responsible owners, but I think overall, and it was expressed earlier, you didn't buy a home here in Laverne to rent next door to a Motel 6. And I'm sorry, but I wouldn't rent one of the rooms out of my house for $40. Or $100, yeah, I'll give you not 40. So understand that this body here will address the issue. We know that it's a problem now, and rest assured that we will come up with a constitutionally approved ordinance that will allow us to regulate what's going on in the city. We're here for you.
First, I want to say I am so sorry for the families that have experienced this. Living next door to such a horrific situation and having children, I feel very sorry for you. I'm so sorry. The two topics that we always express about Laverne is the quality of life that we all love. That's why we all moved here to Laverne. And also that the safety. Our police department is wonderful. They're on top of as much as they can for the manpower. And we love that. That's, when we take surveys, that's the one thing everyone says they love about Laverne is public safety. They feel safe here and they love it. I want you to feel that same thing. And I agree with Charlie. We have to do something about this. So I agree. I would love, Bob, for you to be able to come back to us with what legally we can do. In the state of California, what is allowed. I know where I live, there's been talk about short-term rentals, and we haven't really heard exactly what's going on, but I think it's bigger than what we even hear tonight here. And so I would like to ask that too. that we bring back everything possibly we can do. Because I don't believe that we should have short-term rentals in Laverne. You know, nobody wants that next door to them.
Tim? Well, I'm going to mirror some of the statements. Kelly, thank you for getting those signatures together, and as Councilmember Carter stated, you don't know until you talk and people tell us what's going on, and we really appreciate that. As you've seen before, we've made major actions on things that happen in our community, and we act pretty quickly. So, again, safety, safety, safety. Our children are the big-time safety issue there. I did some, little bit of research. I'm clicking with my phone here because I couldn't print it off today, but Los Angeles County has had one for a little bit. They just passed it, but under new rules, Angelenos can host such rentals only in their primary residence. These are just a few items. Defined as a place where they live at least half the year, host must register with the city, pay lodging taxes, keep records for city inspection, make sure they have working smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, and information on emergency exits, among other requirements. Hosts can offer their homes for short stays of up to 120 days annually. This is just one. However, Angelenos can exceed that cap and welcome temporary guests all year. They don't have multiple citations from the city in recent years or can make successful case and planning officials that doing so will not hurt the neighborhoods. They're in place. I popped up another one: New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Boston. And some of these have some severe fines with them too. So $1,750 fines, $1,500 to $3,500 fines. Some areas just restrict them completely. So, and it sounds we have some residents that have very successful, they're very focused, and obviously these are major issues. So I would also support us, Councilmember Rosales, I would also support us doing research to figure out what fits for our community, but to address this situation quickly as possible, but also make sure that the ordinance is airtight, legally binding, and that we can follow through. Also, we have to police this and make sure there's costs in there for us to police the ordinance, to make sure we police it properly and it's taken care of expeditiously. So, thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank all of our community who's come in to speak about this tonight. When our community goes through challenging times such as this, and I can see two clear cases where urgency is needed, thoughtful consideration is needed, in a way that maintains the community for many folks. But we can't let a few spoil it for everybody. So I concur with my colleagues that we need to look into this and see how quickly we can move forward on making a change so that the community that has come together to support this can stay together and enjoy the community that we all love, which is Laverne.
And if I can, Mr. Mayor, before you finish in my comments, some further discussion, Councilmember Davis came with the immediacy as well as I heard about the possibility of an urgency ordinance. And I don't think that is a practical solution here, given the research we need to do. It will take us time, but there is the ability to consider a moratorium, which will, in these cases, are typically what is done to allow staff to do the research, and then in that meantime, it prohibits the suggested activities such as anything under 30-day rentals would not be allowed. I would suggest if we were to consider that, that would be staff's preference to look at it that way, so we're not rushing a decision, but still relieving the problem in the temporary.
Would you need a motion for that?
I would want direct, we'd need to bring that back, but I'd want to know from council, would you want us to put something in place? I think we need to give notice to the operators that we know of, that we were going to be doing this, so that they could let any of the existing rentees know that this was coming, but that could be something that could be brought back to you in short order.
I don't think we should make allowances. It should be as long as we need to take, and that moratorium, the longer the better. And so we come up with a constitutionally approved, well-written ordinance so that we're not doing the court routine with different owners.
So the way moratorium, we can do an initial of 45 days.
Right, and then it has to come back before you for a public hearing if more time is needed, then that's certainly a possibility. Councilmember Hepburn, you know, read off a number of potential regulations, but a lot of those are big cities that have big bureaucratic engines that this city doesn't have to police something like that. So we're gonna have to come up with something, and it may take some time.
Well, that was my point.
Right.
We need to take as much time as it takes, but with a moratorium to prevent this business.
So if that's the consensus of the council, then we'll prepare a moratorium ordinance for you to look at your next meeting.
Do we need to have a motion for that?
I think I have your direction.
Let's do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I too would like to thank each and every one of you for coming in this evening, and I'm sorry that you're having to go through this. I know where both of these properties are. I also know where the resident lives that has the successful one, and that was Kim Herrera. And it's not close to either one of these properties, and I heard a reference, well, you know, down on Bonita Avenue. Well, I can guarantee you that there's two people here tonight, Jeremy and Michelle, that are here tonight because of the care that they're taking in their house. If they wouldn't want anything like that either. So this is not about a location in the city. This is about the whole city, protecting the whole city and the quality of life that we want. So with regards to a moratorium, I would like, we are gonna be scheduling a special meeting coming up because of the accessory units, and if possible, I would like to add that to that meeting instead of waiting until the meeting in June, or January, I'm sorry.
Good moratorium.
We need to look at that and see if such an ordinance could be prepared and adopted by the council at such a special meeting. One thing in looking at this issue in preparation for tonight's agenda was, just people's plans and those who have an arrangement with Airbnb, and we're talking about Airbnb, but there are others as well. They're not the only provider of this kind of rental arrangement. That, through the holidays, there may well be some reservations that have been made. And so that was kind of the idea, is get some direction from the council tonight and understand what that direction is. But maybe coming back in January is, we'll look at whether or not it's possible to advance that. But we do want to be as fair as we can to everyone in terms of if we're going to call a temporary halt, while we figure out how we can deal with and regulate this. We just want everybody to know.
Because this will be, if we put this in, it will affect all operators, the ones we've heard about and the ones that we haven't, that, are maybe doing it in a way that is not effective to anyone. So we would expect that when we bring it back, it would be effective at that time, but give notice at this point that we intend to put a moratorium in place. So we really wouldn't lose any time in that regard. We would put the posts on notice now that we know of, and there are 3, I think, that we have that are licensed. There may be others that exist, but we only know about those that have full business licenses.
Can I, just real quick, then maybe, I understand the timeframe. I think it would be important that we step up our policing of these properties to make sure that we watch them much closer. I know it's difficult, I know, but I think that we have an issue that we would probably want to step up observance of these properties, if we could do that.
The piece I was gonna say, Councilmember Hepburn, was if you see something, please don't hesitate. Dial 911 immediately.
Don't
Do
wait.
do not give them any tolerance in thinking this might be nothing. If you're concerned, call 911.
Okay,
We have our direction, thank you.
thank you, everybody, again. Okay, at this time, we will move to item 8, that's public comment. Anybody that wishes to address an item not on the agenda, now is the time to please come to the podium. Again, speaker cards are there. Please fill them out before or after. Thank you. Jeff?
Sorry, I showed up late for the beginning of the meeting, but I know that it started off with some very positive stuff, some recognition, some awards, that sort of thing. And I hope that you didn't bring the whole thing down with something that still is worthy of some mention. We have a 2006 graduate of Damien High School who has been a teacher at Damien High School as well as a volunteer San Bernardino Sheriff search and rescue person who passed away a few days ago. Yeah, you got it. I just wanted to make sure that that didn't pass without saying perhaps some recognition and moments of silence.
We're going to adjourn the meeting in his honor this evening. So thank you, Jeff. Okay, anybody else that would like to address the council this evening on public comment? Jeremy? And Michelle?
Melissa.
Alyssa, I was told, I'm sorry.
It's okay, my brother's name is
Boy.
Michael, so I'm
Don't help him anymore.
I will never make that mistake again, I promise.
No worries.
Council, city staff, Melissa and I just wanted to say thank you very much. First, I wanted to thank Eric Scherer from the planning department. It was very helpful throughout the whole Mills Act application process. And not only for ourselves, but our neighbors, and both in painstakingly restoring our houses for the past, 7 years.
7 years.
She's a saint, so thank you to her, also in a public forum. As well as the city staff, I also would like to thank Sherry Best and Bill Lemon. I don't know if they're still here. Sherry was earlier. But for those of you in the room that have historical homes, the Historical Society here is an awesome resource. We've been members the last several years, and it's a big part of why we moved here, and we've been very happy. So just want to thank the council for considering our treasure in progress, and all of those that are the neighbors. Thanks for the patience.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Anybody else like to address the city council this evening under public comment? Okay.
I have something, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I just wanted to take a moment and introduce to the council as well as the community. I think I had mentioned the council did new interim fire chief last month or so, that due to the contract engagement we had Kurt Summers under, we were limited in the amount of time, and unfortunately that time is coming to a close. So the first thing I'd like to do is just publicly give my appreciation to Kurt Summers for stepping in and a very And then with that, the gentleman to his right, Devin Leonard, will be stepping in and has been shadowing him in that regard. And Devin Leonard comes to us, he retired division chief from Orange County Fire Association, and has over 28 years of experience with fire service. So happy to have him come over and take over the reins while we go through full recruitment. So Devin, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We'll move into item 9, council comments, conferences. Tim, you want to start?
Sure. We had Winter Wonderland this Saturday, which was amazing. Thank you, Bill, Yvonne, Public Works, everyone. It was, I hear it was a wonderful success. Oh, thank you. Winter Wonderland 2019, 21 vendors, 11 sponsors, 245 pre-registered participants, 360 day participants, 605 paid participants total, 28 tons of snow, 3 sled runs, 2 play areas, 1 large snowman, plus the ride, the hay ride, right? Plus the hay ride. Anyway, that's what our town's all about. It was wonderful, lots of kids, and it was kind of a gloomy day. It was perfect. The snow stayed a lot longer than it was supposed to. So, thank you, staff. You guys just do it great. Always do it great. Also, it was a few Saturdays ago, we had the Historical Society UOV Historical Tour. There was probably about 12 or 15 of us that walked the campus, and they gave out the buildings that were there, that aren't there now. It was really cool. It's just fun to see where our roots came from, especially the university, and gave us the basically the historical part of where it started and how the people that were involved. It was a lot of fun. And then, of course, our tree lighting ceremony downtown, the walk was wonderful. I'll let you guys do that. It was great. Anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Everyone have a safe holiday, and please be careful. And we do live in a beautiful place. Thank you.
Okay, well, I brought all the flyers from everything, and I'm not gonna talk about it all, so. But first, I wanna wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and just enjoy that time with your family. Oh, I'm always told I'm loud, so, okay, microphone. But, yes, we had the Old Town Laverne holiday stroll and tree lighting, and Santa was downtown, lots of kids. I don't know the numbers that came out, but it was really, just lots of people walking around and enjoying the evening and going into the different stores and eating downtown. It was nice to see. And it was cold, so you could bundle up. And so, just wonderful. So, they did a great job. And the one item that I'll talk about, I know others, you can talk about other things. Here's one thing that we attended to. We can talk about that. Yes, something quite interesting is we were invited, council was invited to Light in the Darkness. And it's Legacy One. And what that is, it's the float for Donate Life that we were invited to Irwindale. Near Davis and I attended. Excuse me. And it was quite interesting because we do have a representative from Legacy One that will be here in April. She talks about how you can donate, body parts or whatever happens, that you could donate that to save lives. And they had recipients at this reception that actually either received something that saved their life or one of their loved ones was died and they gave that body part. And it was very, very touching. And so on New Year's Day, we were able to see the float there. It's 55 feet long. And it is spectacular, just the way it's decorated and all the meaning behind it. And they even out of little seeds made the pictures of the people that have donated. And they're going to be all around the float. So when you see it on New Year's Day on TV, or if you're going down to the Rose Parade, remember that one, because there's so much meaning behind this float. And Merry Christmas once again.
Charlie?
The reason that we are helping each other with our microphones is because this is live stream now, and for the cameras that you see to pick this up, we need to be on the microphone. So it's not because you're not going to be able to hear us, but the people at home that are watching this is the reason we do that.
These mics take
You're on my time.
Some people can't turn their mics on.
Well, you
but
only
that's
have
another
3
story.
minutes, but
You're over.
and sometimes
Thank you.
it takes a neighbor.
We all attended except for Tim. He was busy working, doing what he was supposed to do. The 2019 Board of Directors Annual Installation Dinner at Hillcrest, which is always, I think I've attended every one of them.
I was there.
They sat at our table.
I'll give you one out because I was talking to Shirley Boyer the whole night and we were kind of.
You were ignoring us.
I was not, I was just full of energy, you know, so anyway.
I wasn't, so I didn't notice. Anyway, we went to this dinner, and as always, Hillcrest puts on a tremendous dinner. The people there are just so wonderful, and we really enjoyed ourselves. We got to hear the choir sing their Christmas songs. It's really amazing to watch these very senior citizens enjoy the Christmas holiday. As a new member of the Historical Society, I went to the sale of baked goods, which are at the end of the table and available for pickup after the meeting.
Free of charge.
For free. We
Is
have
he
Carney?
Excuse me. It's like Dale and Fred, right?
Carney Charlie, go ahead.
That's right. Okay.
It's on a roll.
I'm Jerry Lewis to your Dean Martin.
And it was attended by a number of people, but the wonderful thing about this particular Historical Society meeting was we had the Bonita High School band come out to us and play, I think, 5 tunes. And it was really enjoyable. And again, it was cold, everybody was wrapped up. It was very nice, very seasonal. That night when I got home, my neighbor employed that band and I got to hear them again. So it was really a double dose of good Christmas music. Merry Christmas to all of you. Enjoy, have fun.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales, that was elegant. So after the tree lighting that we had here, this city has just gone, not bonkers, but has had a number of wonderful events. The high school and middle schools had their choir concerts and their band concerts out at the Bonita Center of the Arts. Also at United Methodist was the Bonita High School Chamber Singers, and I'm a proud father of the young ladies singing there. That was fabulous. The Bonita High Band is something not to miss. Jazz season is coming up, but next year, if you can find a way to go listen to them, that's very worthwhile. On Friday, the 6th of December, many of us attended the ribbon cutting for the Pomona Homeless Shelter down on Mission, Hope for Home, or Home for Hope, along with services that they're providing down there. It's really wonderful. And we had the installation dinner, and the reason I remember Tim was talking to Shirley for so long, and Charlie didn't, because Charlie kept asking me, are you related to that one too? And it's true, about half the population at Hillcrest is a relative. All right, 3/4 of the population is a relative of mine, and we did have a wonderful time. Well, I missed it in 5. I should have announced it in 5. But this Sunday, if you want to hear me sing, actually, no, I stand with the choir, but the Laverne Church of the Brethren Sanctuary Choir will be performing at 4 o'clock on December 22nd.
You'll do well.
It's an impressive choir, I must say, but they did allow me to join, so, you know, so much for that. But Merry Christmas, everybody, Happy New Year, hope your holidays, Hanukkah, everything is wonderful, thank you.
So they allow you in the choir, they put me in the back pew. Just saying.
You choose to be in the back pew. You could sit in the front with my sister.
Again, family.
Yeah, we're not related. I would like to add something on, what the Donate Life float, which I think is absolutely fascinating. When Robin was talking about the seeds that we use for the faces, those are donors that, when they died, gave organs or some type of their body for somebody to be able to live. And the people that are sitting on the float are recipients, and the people walking along the float are donors that are living donors. And we've had Ida Braun, she's here tonight. There she is. Hi, Ida. I didn't know that. I would have greeted you earlier, but and Ida, and thank you for allowing me to know you're here. donated one of her kidneys to a daughter before she was 4 years old to live. And since then, her daughter has grown up. She's graduated from the University of Laverne and doing a great job. So thank you for that. But that's what that donation is. Speaking of giving, there's an organization in town called Sowing Seeds for Life, and it's on Arrow Highway. Twice a month, they donate food to people that stand in line. They've expanded their giving. They're also now at Mount Sac and Cal Poly, which has a number of homeless people going to school and living in cars or someplace else. But when I was talking to Vicki Brown, and by the way, this started in 2007 in the Great Recession, when her minister handed her $100 and said, "Go make a difference in people that don't have enough food." Well, in 2019, they just finished and have served over 100,000 people. So that's right here in Laverne. So it's a great organization, all run by volunteers, and it's spectacular. The high school band that has been mentioned is spectacular. I was this close with Jeff Bird to get them to come in here and play about 3 or 4 songs at the beginning of the meeting, and our city manager didn't know it, but that's okay. But when I talked to this morning, he said, "Don, I can't," because he said they had 2 days. But as Charlie said, he went home and there they were again. These are just great kids led by a great director. I would like to thank 2 people that I mentioned, Melissa and Jeremy in the back, because we have a tax measure that has been approved by the ballot, and Jeremy is going to be leading that. He is a firefighter in Arcadia and led that to success and wants to help the community that he lives in. And he told me something that I think is very, very worthwhile for each and every one of us to remember on this. He said, "Don, I am not doing it for me, I'm doing it for my kids." And I think that's really important to understand, that as we move through our life, it's so important to do things for our kids. And Jeremy, thank you very much for your commitment to the city that you live in. Okay, one more thing before the end, and that is something that I attended on Saturday. I got an email from the Scoutmaster, Troop 411. I mentioned earlier, right down here at the barn across from Benita High School. They've been there for almost 90 years. And that was something that happened at our cemetery on Saturday. It's this, and it's a tradition, and it is called Wreaths Across America. I didn't know this existed until Thursday, but I said, you know what, I am gonna go and find out what this is about. It is, Wreaths Across America was started in the early 90s by somebody that had extra wreaths. And so he said, what am I gonna do with these? And he sent those by truck to the back part and the oldest part of Arlington to put a wreath on the graves of those forgotten veterans, those soldiers and so forth. Well, it has expanded, and now this year in 2019, it hit 1,600 locations across America, across the world, and at sea. Our foreign cemeteries from World War II have these wreaths put on the graves of our soldiers. So it is an amazing thing. There's a grandmother, a daughter, and a granddaughter who's adopted our cemetery to have this happen. On a Saturday morning, we put 262 wreaths on veterans' graves, and 3 of them were my family, my father, my grandfather, and my uncle. It was amazingly moving. Short ceremony, the Boy Scouts did the Pledge of Allegiance and the flag, and it was something that, another point, if you are a veteran or you know somebody that's a veteran in the cemetery, please let me know. And the reason is the only identified 270 was because there's something on those gravestones that identify it. But a lot of veterans in that ceremony do not have anything on that gravestone that indicated that they were in the military. So please, if you know somebody, let us know. We'll get it to the right people. But the grandma, daughter, and granddaughter live up in Mount Baldy, and they have adopted our cemetery, and it's an amazing event. So I would encourage you to put it on your calendar for 9 o'clock, the second Saturday of next year. Also, getting these wreaths out, I Googled, there's pages and pages and multiple lines of trucking companies that deliver this for free. I mean, that's how big this thing has gotten and how much the veterans mean. So thank you for that. The last thing is, I know there's a few days left before Christmas, so please don't venture too far and shop Laverne. Please keep your money here because it helps each and every one of us. So thank you very much. And that is it for that. On adjournment, we are going to be adjourning to a special meeting.
Ten stations?
Oh, yeah. Never mind. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Jeff, for your thoughts. Ernie, we're going to adjourn, but are we going to adjourn to another meeting first? Okay. On Saturday, a 32-year-old Damien High School graduated in 2006, fell to his death while looking for a lost hiker in Mount Baldy. He'd been lost for a week. There was, I don't know how many people at Baldy, but there was a lot of people out.
126 searchers.
Okay, 126 people. And all of them, this rescuer somehow got separated from his team and fell to his death where he was found. He is a prior teacher at St. Lucy's in Glendora, but a teacher at Damien High School. He lives in Upland, and the sad part is he just got married.
To another teacher at Damien.
So, and a track coach, track and cross country, or track and field coach as well. So he's well ingrained in the city of Laverne from a student and a teacher, and we're going to be adjourning tonight in honor of this young man who they just give and give. And we've talked about lots of giving tonight, and here's another example of somebody that makes this world a better place, and unfortunately, he lost his because of it. So
Let me add something. Tim Staples was a search and rescue deputy for San Bernardino County. He gave of himself for $1 a year. He did it because he wanted to be helping people that were lost. And this brave man went out into weather that we wouldn't think of going out into with his partner to search for a lost hiker who'd been gone for a week. In most cases, this would be called a recovery as opposed to a rescue. But he still went out to do his duty. And for those people that get a badge on their chest and put themselves in harm's way, those people that wear a uniform, men and women, tonight before you go to bed, in your warm houses, in the comfortable bed and surroundings that you have, remember that there's people that are in harm's way that are protecting you and are willing to pay that price. And this wonderful man, this hero, is resting with God now.
thank you, Charlie. Our next scheduled meeting is January 6th, but will be canceled because of lack of business. Our next scheduled meeting is January 20th, which is the day after holiday. And our next, so it's Tuesday, January 21st at 6:30. Please have a great Christmas. Be safe. Happy New Year. And we'll see you.